Welcome to the Rude Dog Show. Good afternoon, good evening for some, and maybe the next day for others. This is Rudy Reyes on the RudeDogShow.com. You know, we have an NFL agency frenzy thing going on here, and we're going to jump into that. But I certainly want to give a special thanks to two of my fantastic partners at Trophy Case. So if you go to Twitter and you follow them, download the Trophy Case app. That's going to be a fabulous way for you to be seen if you're an upcoming player, whether it's MLB, NFL, you name it, you can be in it, but you have to download the app to be in it, to win it. Go to trophycase.app, download for either Apple iPhone or for your Android device, if that's what you prefer. And of course, you can always go to SaturdaysCount.com because you're going to be ready for the NCAA football season, which is right around the corner. And if you go to @SaturdaysCount, go throw them a follow and go to SaturdaysCount.com. Download your favorite shirt. They have all sizes, colors, and every team. But you have to make Saturdays count, and you have to order a shirt. And if you do that, and there's a promo code, just use Rude Dog. Maybe that'll work for you, and that may get you a certain percentile off. This is Rudy Reyes on the Rude Dog Show. I'm on Today's California, Today's Canada, live on Twitter, live on Facebook, and live on, the metaverse, the universe, the ultraverse, I guess, if there's any lack of a better term than that. NFL free agent frenzy is absolutely nuts. Try to say that 10 times fast. That's got to be just crazy as well to make that statement. You know, we've seen a lot of great moves today. We're going to go into all those, but I wanted to start off with Pittsburgh. And I say that because when you look at the types of moves that were done by the Bears and multiple position players that were taken in free agency, of course, thank you, Joan. I appreciate you tuning in. Thank you so much. I appreciate all comments. They'll be read on air and live. So make sure you check those out. Thanks, Joan. We look at the release of Cam Sutton, which really wasn't a huge surprise. I mean, not to many. And in all transparency, there were better cornerbacks. I can't say that Cam Sutton didn't do the job in a lot of respects, but he also gave up a lot of free plays as well, just over earnest, if you will. It was a free agency market, and it's slowly drying up. I mean, there hasn't been a wide receiver signed quite yet. Defensive guys, offensive line, guards, tackles, guys that have really been picked today. And I think that really allows for teams such as the Steelers to really kind of evaluate the market, which they do. They don't make a big free agency splash. I don't know what the contract looks like between the signing of Patrick Peterson in regards to monies up front or monies in the long term, but I'm sure it was a relatively substantial deal. Minnesota just could not handle it and somehow got in the way of themselves in order to commit the amount of monies that are ultimately needed by a guy like, Patrick Peterson, 3-time Pro Bowler, 8-time, All-Star, if you will. 8-time Pro Bowler, 3-time All-Pro. I mean, it was meant to be. It's a multi-year Pro Bowler, and Patrick he's going to play a very significant role in the secondary for the Steelers, as he had done with Minnesota and in Arizona. He signed with the Steelers today. I think it's a very hot market for defensive players and offensive players, just not wide receivers, respectfully. And I say that because there hasn't been any sign. Oddly enough, you still have Odell Beckham Jr., who is hot on the market. Aaron Rodgers has not made a decision yet. We've seen Jimmy Garoppolo find his way over to the Las Vegas Raiders as quarterback, as Derek Carr decided to sign with the New Orleans Saints. And we'll go into all that as we go on. But when we look at Mike Tomlin, Patrick Peterson stated he's always been a big fan of Mike Tomlin. I mean, you got to love a guy who's defensive-minded. This Steelers defense was decent in the secondary. They just went to version 2.0, having Patrick Peterson there. And we'll go into specifics as to what that actually looks like. And it sounds like he's excited to play in the Steel City, and always respects the way that Tomlin had gotten more out of his teams than clearly the paper would indicate. He's going to dictate a lot of sub-packages. There's going to be a heads up for him to be the potential signal caller there in the secondary for the Steelers, while opposite he's going to have Minkah Fitzpatrick to really kind of meld together and take some time. There's going to be a lot of discussion as to who the signal caller is going to be. But when you have a guy like Patrick Peterson in the mix, you got almost have to give the nod to him because he's been there, done that for now his third team in his 11-year career. When I say Minka, I believe that, look, you can look at the offensive line for the Steelers, not very good. You can look at the defensive line. Two guys stand out to me. Of course, Cam Hayward goes over to the Pro Bowl, multiple-year Pro Bowl player. Minka Fitzpatrick, All-Pro, went over as a Pro Bowler as well. But those are the only two Steelers that went to Las Vegas to participate in the Pro Bowl games. And I find myself really thinking, is this going to make a serious splash? I mean, are there other guys out there in the cornerback market who's going to be any hotter than Patrick Peterson? Well, his age is kind of up there. He's 32. He has a little bit of time left in his career. And of course, he goes on the record as stating on a podcast that if for some reason he ends his career with the Steelers, it's got to be a term that he would want in order to stay there with Pittsburgh. Peterson brings solid veteran presence and leadership and direction, and ultimately what he brings is a personality and attitude. And I focus on the word attitude because the attitude really plays out in the secondary. It plays out in being a ball hawk, and we'll go into numbers as to what he had done throughout his career. And when I look at this, I think to myself, he spent 2 years in Minnesota, 11 years in Arizona prior to that. And you could say Peterson's ability to be the best fits the position vacated by the loss of Cam Sutton. Look, I understand Cam Sutton is good. He was very good. He's going to do great things for the Detroit Lions. But when I look at this from a different point of view, I believe that he fits better in that defensive system than he did in Pittsburgh. He's going to have a lot of looks. He's a good player, but I think Patrick Peterson's just a version 2.0. I just believe he's going to be that much better, better on the coverage, better on bump and run. He's going to be able to play in those sub packages, as I mentioned earlier, so much better, so much more fluent than you would probably suspect other players would. But again, he wouldn't be in the league this long if for some reason he had no redeeming qualities in order to play on the receiver and know when to play on the ball as well. So certainly questions surrounding the Steelers secondary and what that's going to look like. But of course, the NFL draft happens first. And then after that, as you gear towards August, you're going to find that the Steelers are going to shore that up in the secondary. Wouldn't surprise me to see them get a pure, athletic, dynamic, young stud pass rusher on the opposite edge of where TJ Watt plays on that defensive line. And I'm relatively defensive-minded, but I do enjoy talking about offense as well, as you know. This is Rudy Reyes on the RudeDogShow.com. Go to the RudeDogShow.com, have a lot of great stuff, and make sure you go check out my great partners. You'll see that little scribble down below right there in that ticker. When you look at Sutton's ability to be a solid playmaker down the field and then down the stretch throughout the season, you see some glimpses of Cam Sutton and what he's really capable of. I just believe that when you have a seasoned veteran like Patrick Peterson come in, you're going to see a lot more dynamic splash plays, as Mike Tomlin likes to call them, and you're going to see him just really take control of the game from beginning to end. He's going to rotate out based on schemes, but for the most part, once he's out on the field, he's going to do fantastic things. Now, when you look at Patrick Peterson's career, he managed 10 assisted tackles, 5 interceptions for a total of 92 yards last year. Peterson, 409 yards, 34 interceptions, 4 sacks, 4 touchdowns since 2011. Now, let's not fail to mention that this was strategic, as it could get possibly for the 8-time Pro Bowler, 3-time All-Pro, and obviously wanted more than the Vikings were prepared to pay him. And I like to see him end in the Steel City. Granted, there's a term that they could both come to terms with in Pittsburgh. On other things here in the free agency frenzy, a lot of great stuff. Giants signed Bobby Okereke. He's a young inside linebacker from the Colts. Excuse me. He had 151 tackles this past season. The Bears were going to end up earlier on him, but ended up with TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds. Now, those are the double deals they're going to see throughout free agency. So a lot to be said for the upcoming NFL draft, and where these teams find themselves in position in order to acquire players that will fit their system. And then you look even further, I think that their free agency, and it has to be noted that these contracts are a lot upfront. I've seen a lot of upfront money associated with these signings at $40 million. 22 of that is guaranteed for 4 years for Okereke. And then you look at, guys like Tremaine Edmonds, who also had fantastic coverage and best in the NFL in regards to speed. He's 6'5" at 255. So Tremaine Edmonds is a guy that certainly can be sought after. He was very good in Buffalo, and they're going to lose a very solid piece on that defensive front, maybe even a DB, depending on the scheme and position that they put him in. But the Bears have the 5th and 6th grade best graded players. At least that's what PFF says. And it's kind of hard to be wrong when you look at their numbers. You look at free agent running back Matt Breida, another guy who was going to be on the move. Giants and him came to a deal at $2.3 million, complete incentives, and a very good player staying in New York. So, I think a 1-year tender is where a lot of these teams are trending. You looked at that last year, a lot of players as well in a 1-year rental, and no question about who these guys are. No updates in regards to another New York potential in Aaron Rodgers. There's been no deal signed. There's been nothing give and take from either side, whether it's the Jets or the Packers. We're going to see what the compensation package looks like or offered to Green Bay. If for some reason he does sign with New York, we're going to have Randy Cross on, former San Francisco 49er Hall of Famer, on the Rude Dog Show tomorrow. So you definitely want to stay tuned for that. It's going to be fabulous. I love having the opportunity to speak to Randy Cross. It's been a little bit, but certainly going to get him on. We're going to talk once this free agency frenzy kind of boils down. So again, Randy Cross tomorrow, 5 p.m. Pacific time, right here on the RudeDogShow.com. So stay tuned for that one. I'm live on Today's California. Today's Canada. Go to California. Today's California. You can find them at Insider's Guide, an Insider's Guide on Twitter. Throw them a follow. Everything having to do with California, Coachella Valley, and everything they're in. And thank them for the opportunity to host my show on their network. The Bucs certainly decided to make a splash move today by re-signing Jamel Dean. Jamel Dean's been a real solid component for the Bucs on the defensive side of the ball. Again, a lot of defensive guys. There's only been one running back so far that's been signed. I think that you're going to see a lot more of these guys. You're going to see a lot more free agent signings, and this has gone out throughout the entire day, just being busy trying to keep up with all of this. And that's why I call it a frenzy, because there's so much dialogue, there's so much conversation, there's so much speculation as to where these guys are going to land. And of course, the Giants agreed to more terms with Rakeem Nunez-Roches, per sources. Another guy who kind of reminds you of where he was versus where he's going, or how it starts versus how it ended, or whatever euphemism you want to use. Obo Okonroko is signing with the Browns. He's getting a 3-year deal worth $19 million. He has a chance to make 22, but he'll get 12.5 up front, guaranteed monies. Again, going back to where the Bears are, they're really beefing up. I have not seen the Bears be this aggressive in free agency for, I can't even tell you how long, probably 10 or 15 years at least. I think one of the worst signings I've ever seen of the Bears is by Jay Cutler, via Jay Cutler, quarterback in free agency. I think they just stopped paying him last year, if I'm not mistaken. Signed a multi-million-dollar deal for multiple years. He hardly played at all, but that just showed that prior to Ryan Poles in no pun intended, pole position to figure out where the Bears are, or where they're going, or where they're headed, I think the Bears are trending in the right direction. What they actually could have done is re-sign Roquan Smith, but instead they went with the 6'5", 260-plus pounder and Tremaine Edmonds, of course, as noted, brother of Terrell Edmonds, who plays for the Steelers in the secondary. I don't think it was a lot of money. I don't think that it was hyperbole by any means. I believe that the Bears seen the value. They seen what he did in Buffalo. They kept their eye on him, looked at his contract, found out that they can go into multiple directions. What possibilities there are, it's hard to say. And what that looks like moving forward for this defensive line also could remain unseen. But I do like the move. I do like Tremaine Edmonds. I think he's going to be a stud in this Bears system up front, going to put a lot of pass rush pressure on guys in the NFC North. I think that you also have to look at how they've been able to put Justin Fields in a position to not only give guys like Justin Fields starting, quarterbacks who have relatively not had the weaponry, not had the guys that they needed, especially the ones in the backfield, the opportunity to succeed. But I believe the Bears, again, trend in the right direction as they now beefed up, grabbing Nate Davis, former Titan, 3-year deal. And again, it's a big deal if you want to provide protection on either side of the ball on that offensive line in order to give him the time he needs to move forward, to get those first downs and to keep moving the chains. The Texans are an interesting case because, speaking of case, they gave Case Keenum a deal worth $6.25 million, which is okay. It's a good deal, but what happens is it affects their overall cap without money's guaranteed up front, so they can write it off the books. For some reason, it doesn't work out. And there are $4 million guaranteed reasons why it could very well work out. The Texans decided to give Chase Winovich a 1-year, $2 million deal, so not a big cap hit, essentially quite impervious to where both of these guys are certainly going to make a case. Of course, you have to have Chase to make a case. And I believe they really will. Thank you so much, Angel. Thank you for the nice comment. To say nice is nice, so I appreciate it nonetheless. Thank you. And this is kind of interesting. I look at Mike McGlinchey, how he protected Brock Purdy last year. Jawan Taylor, both of these tackles with guys that are going to step up in the Mike Shanahan system there in San Francisco, now leaves. Jaguars, Jawan Taylor signing with the Chiefs on a 4-year, $80 million deal. They're moving away from Orlando Brown, which kind of makes sense. He's up there in age, but I can't believe he's going to go all that wrong with 2 Super Bowl rings and clearly a team that's going to need his services. So Orlando Brown, KC signed another tackle. And then, of course, Jimmy G drawing probably some of the most, at least today, in regards to free agency signings. We spoke about Derek Carr earlier and what Derek Carr may very well do for the New Orleans Saints, as money is really tight in that organization. Mickey's has his work cut out for him in that regard. But I think Jimmy G is a guy with tons of speculation surrounding him. Is he going to be the Jimmy G of the future, or is he going to be the Jimmy G of the past? Well, the past means that he's thrown lots of untimely, of course, never a good time to throw interceptions, as I say here on the RudeDogShow.com. But certainly a guy you have to look out for, what he's going to do with Davante Adams, what that prime quarterback position will actually elude him to. And I like to say that he's going to get his money's worth with Davante Adams. And we're going to find out what that contract looks like when it becomes available for Davante. The Eagles' feathers continue getting plucked. And when I say that, I don't mean that in a negative light. I mean that in the sense that, Marcus Epps signed a 2-year, $12 million deal with $8 million of that up front with the Raiders, and they needed safety help very, very badly in the offseason. He's 27, starting all 20 games for the Eagles, and now he cashes in big time. I don't believe that the Eagles really had him in mind for future reference to be the guy in the secondary. And then moving on here, Titans decided to sign Eagles, again, another feather plucked off the Eagles tree. Eagles offensive tackle Andre Dillard is a guy who will soon be off the market. and could very well sign with the Titans. It's kind of an exchange, but not really an exchange, if that makes any sense at all. But I think he's going to be a very solid addition. For some reason, the Titans were able to work this deal out. They need younger players there in Tennessee. There's no question about it. And the fact alone that they decided to sign younger tackles, and certainly going to look at that in the NFL draft. They definitely need to provide Tannehill some protection. I'm not sold on Tannehill. I probably never will. And of course, when I look at this, I think to myself, I see him probably being benched for Malik Willis sometime in this upcoming season as well. I'm not saying it'll happen, but it's certainly possible. This is Rudy Reyes on the Rude Dog Show. Go be sure to check out trophycase.app. Go to SaturdaysCount.com. Download the Trophy Case app. You got to be in it to win it. You have to know where you're at. And if you want to put a trophy in your case, go download the trophycase.app. And that's going to help you get noticed, be seen by the right people at the right time for the right reasons. And they may find you in solid company. SaturdaysCount.com. Make sure you get your shirts. They're actually quite nice. Mine is on its way. A little bit of a delay nonetheless, but it'll be here. And when it is, I'll be glad to show you guys what that looks like up front and in person. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Shirt's going to probably be huge. I have to wash it twice. So moving on here, a few other key notes here. As you would expect, Anzalone's been doing it all for the Lions last year. A 3-year deal, 18.75, and comes right back to the Lions. Jesse Bates moves on from the Bengals and actually decides to cash in at $16.5 million per year, fourth highest paid tight end in NFL history. Oddly enough, I did not see this coming. I've seen a lot of transactions coming, but this one I did not see. Not that the Falcons don't need tight end help, they do, but they also need quarterback help, and I think they're going to go to the NFL draft to find out what that is due to rehashing older quarterbacks in a new system. So we're going to see what that actually looks like. So again, lots of stuff going on. Free agency is still not done yet. There's a lot of things going on within free agency. And I think that when you look at the market, I think it's just absolutely going to be insane. It's not over yet. There's so much more to go. I'll give you a few other notes here. Texans signed former Browns and Patriots pass rusher Chase Winovich. And Bills agreed with guard Connor McGovern, who's going to give Josh Allen a little bit more and better athletic time to get that ball out of his hands, just to become that much more dynamic by getting the ball in the end zone. Again, you got to protect someone who knows how to run out of the pocket, but you have to sign into that scheme in order to be that person, in order to make sure that those chains keep moving for a team that was just so close this past season and getting past the Kansas City Chiefs. Of course, we know the Chiefs moved on to win Super Bowl 57. Bills signed Cam Lewis to a 1-year deal. He was a restricted free agent. Bills announced him as a cornerback after he spent the time at safety but played special teams. So he decided to cash in on that as well. Again, I don't have a lot more than that. I mean, free agency is still going on, still transpiring. Of course, things are going on right now, and I'm not even looking at it. I'm too busy looking at my notes, and my notes indicate that my show is about up. But thank you so much for tuning in. I certainly appreciate it. This is Rudy Reyes on the RudeDogShow.com. Again, go check out my site and subscribe to my YouTube. I can't mention that enough, and I don't think I do it enough. So subscribe to my YouTube on the Rude Dog Show. And that is free, as you know. Check out all the great stuff from the NFL Combine and much, much more. I have so many things going on. Clearly, the Super Bowl came and went faster going than it was coming for Super Bowl 57. With that said, this is Rudy Reyes on the RudeDogShow.com. Stay tuned. Tomorrow, we're going to have Randy Cross on, Super Bowl champion of the San Francisco 49ers. And make sure you stay tuned for that. It's going to be fun. It's going to be great. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you so much. Have a great night.